Operation BASH 2021 Unites Veterans by Zach Tidwell. A pair of photos accompanies Zach's report on Operation BASH. The first of the photos is a group shot with 10 individuals in shorts or bathing suits who have either just completed a rafting expedition or are about to embark on one. Most members of the group have emphatic smiles. The group is lined up symmetrically with 3 on the left, 3 on the right, and another group of 3 behind a raft in the middle of everyone. Seated on that one raft is Brian Harris at the center of the group. A river with some current is seen immediately behind the group, as is a shore on the other side. A scattering of trees is also seen in the distant background. The caption states, "Water rafting, sun, and camaraderie make for a happy and successful blend for blinded veterans and ASC staff on Day 2 of Operation BASH." Left to right, staff and participants: Richard Paler, Jason Lefevers, Zach Tidwell, Scott Jasinski, Brian Harris, Monica Gilmore, Mark Behrens, Carrie Pressett, with Mike Murphy and Cody Wagner. The second of the 2 photos reveals 2 men in action, pedaling and riding 2 separate objects with 2 large wheels on each side. They are riding one after the other, and not next to one another. The objects would resemble wheelchairs, even more if they did not have pedal functions. Both men have on dark glasses and helmets. They are also wearing small tank-top vests that reveal that they are either a guide or visually impaired. The caption says, "Mike Murphy front and Scott Jasinski enjoy unique recumbent tandem biking experience during Day 4 of their challenging week at Crested Butte's Adaptive Sports Center." The text of Zach's account begins as follows. In mid-June, 6 members of the Blinded Veterans Association and past participants in BVA's Operation Peer Support Initiative, Monica Gilmore, Brian Harris, Jason Lefevers, Mike Murphy, Scott Jasinski, and Zach Tidwell, joined together in Crested Butte, Colorado, at the Adaptive Sports Center, ASC, for a week of exposure to adaptive sports opportunities. The 5-day program that ran June 21 through 25 was the 2021 version of Operation BASH, Blind Adaptive Sports Heroes at ASC. Throughout the week, the members of the group were able to bond over family-style meals that they prepared together in ASC's lodging space in the mornings and evenings. The age range of the veterans was 25 to 60. They arrived from all over the country, with some coming from nearly sea level to appreciate the wonderful oxygen-saturated air at nearly 9,000 feet above sea level in the Rocky Mountains. The veterans' acuity levels varied from having some remaining peripheral vision to total blindness. Some in the group were experiencing additional disabilities. Commonalities and differences aside, this unique group of veterans came together as a cohesive unit to establish their goals with each new challenge. Each day, breakfast was on the agenda before departing for the day's activities, which consisted of top rope, rock climbing, outdoors, whitewater rafting, 2 days of mountain biking, both tandem and independently, hiking, and indoor rock climbing. Although none of the veterans in the group were new to adaptive sports, each member was introduced to a new sport or a new modality of a sport in which they had already participated. On Day 1, the veterans made their way to Hartman Rocks just outside of Crested Butte to go outdoor rock climbing. Hartman Rocks is situated in the middle of an alpine desert. Gritty soil left behind that desert, which had resulted from wind erosion of the very same granite rock faces the group climbed. It was a hot, windy day with nothing much to stop the wind other than a few hardy plants that had managed to cling to life in the area. Despite the adversity, the entire group made it up the rock face. Although the rock was mostly granite, a few thin veins of quartz ran vertically through the face, serving as both a guide and a 3-inch wide ladder to use on some of the routes. Climbing was an intimidating activity for members of the group who grew up in relatively low elevations. Many had never climbed outside previously. This made the experience even more meaningful as the group came together to summit the routes. Where one veteran or 2 may have found a sticking point that caused them to come off the wall, the next climber would communicate with them to see how that same spot might be passed. progress was slowly made on each route of the wall, all independently aside from the adaptive sports professionals belaying the climbers. Day 2 was spent on the river with the group separated into 2 rafts, but still cruising the water together. While there were some choppy areas, the water was relatively low and slow, giving the veterans and the staff some time to enjoy each other's company and bond. It is not uncommon to hear that a favorite part of trips such as these is the bonding that occurs in the morning and evenings during the time spent in the home-style common areas at ASC's living quarters. Rafting was a perfect extension to the value of those mornings and evenings. There was mention in the group that day about the difficult isolation of the past year and the importance of leaning on your brothers and sisters rather than self-isolating. The group became closer that day, breaking down some of those walls that had shot up during the pandemic. It was a nice reminder that we are not alone when struggling with what is going on between our ears, and that it is both normal and okay to have those bad days. Equally important, however, is that we owe it to ourselves to reach out to others during those times, since one of those others to whom we reach out may well have experienced those same feelings and can perhaps offer help. We must keep in mind that help is out there, but that the need for that help must be communicated. Day 3 was the first day of mountain biking. The group was able to choose between riding stand-up or recumbent tandems. 2 veterans opted to ride independently, following the commands of guides. Regardless of the equipment, these were no ordinary bikes, but highly specialized pieces of equipment outfitted with reinforced frames and wide, knobby tires similar to those you might find on a fat tire bike. The first half of the day was spent riding throughout the town, allowing the veterans and their pilots or guides to get acquainted with riding as a team and practicing basic skill. During the latter half of the riding session, the group rallied together and rode a gradual incline up and out of town. As the stand-up tandems are better suited for climbing, they took the lead on the ride, with recumbent tandems and solo riders following right behind. With the end of the scheduled programming window not far off, the veterans made their way back toward downtown Crested Butte, with 3 of the riders taking a quick detour down a nearby single-track trail to appreciate the sounds and scents of a slow-moving river before joining everyone else back in town. Day 4 proved to be the crux of the trip with Biking 2.0. Bikers were now able to put their newly honed skills to the test on a longer, more demanding ride out of town on a mix of gravel, trails, and asphalt roads. The vast majority of the outward leg of the ride was a steady climb as the travelers gained a few hundred feet in elevation over the course of 5 miles. Every rider made it. A number of things made this day special. First, one of the veterans making it to the top as an independent recumbent rider. And second, 2 other veterans deciding to ride a tandem together using their remaining vision and auditory cues from a sighted guide to complete the ride. As the veterans were relaxing at the turnaround point, Crested Butte decided to add its own dose of excitement into the day, with dark, rolling clouds taking command of the sky over the mountain valley. As the thunder began to rumble, the rain began to pour, and the veterans jammed a few snacks into their mouths before taking off down the mountain, with one reportedly reaching 23 miles per hour on the descent back to town. As if the rain and wind were not enough, some hail began pelting the group about 2.5 miles from the Adaptive Sports Center's summer program building. Nevertheless, the group pushed onward, with everyone making it back, soaked, safe, and still smiling. Having rushed headlong back to town, the veterans still had some extra time left in the day that was allotted for programming. They headed to the ASC's main building to do some indoor rock climbing on the state-of-the-art indoor wall. A hand-carved foam base surrounds a steel frame, all coated with concrete and creating a wall that feels like a real rock, complete with natural handholds, cracks, and just a few small plastic handholds that are experienced on normal indoor walls. Day 5, the final day of programming, was spent on more trails, but the veterans were on foot this time, trekking through wildflower-covered fields and an aspen forest outside of town. They walked roughly 2 miles along the trails, stopping to eat a small lunch in a grass clearing on the distal side of the aspen grove before heading back down to their starting point. Again, the group made it back a little earlier than planned and were treated to another hour and a half of indoor climbing upon return to the ASC's main facility. All in all, the 6 participating BVA members were exposed to new opportunities and experiences. All made it home happy and safe the next day, June 26, having grown both as individuals and as a group.